Dear friends, welcome to the next session for Information Security Fundamentals. In today's session, we will be looking at the various documents which an organization has to maintain in order to improve their security or maintain their security. So moving ahead, the information security documents can be classified into three different categories. One is the policy document, the second is the standard document, and third is the practice document. So security policy refers to the set of rules which an organization needs to implement or a particular company implements on various activities. Security standards are basically the standards which will be guiding the rules. That means based on these standards the rules would be implemented. And finally, security practice documents relates to the document which consists of various steps and procedures in order to implement these rules or policies based on the standards. So moving ahead, to go for a detailed definition or a detailed description about these three documents. So security policies are basically sanctioned by the senior management, and it is handled and modified by the senior management as well. These policies are basically based on certain standards. So the standard document is the document which will hold the various standards that are built on sound policies and carry the weight of the policy. That means they are basically the parameters on which or through which or dependent on which the rules are built. The third important document is the security practice document, which consists of basically the procedures or step-by-step guideline or detailed steps that are required to meet the requirement of the standards to implement the rules. So all three of them, which is the policy, we can define it as the rules dependent on some parameters, which is the standard, and these two are implemented using certain steps. So these three important documents holds the different values pertaining to these three important steps or these three important components which are required in order to maintain the security of a particular organization. So moving ahead with the content of these three different documents. So the first one being the security policy. So the main primary component of the security policy is basically who or the role of a particular person in terms of security. So who is responsible for security or what role is responsible for that particular security. The next is what needs to be protected. So basically this means the resources. It might be either the data or the information or the network or the hardware or the software. So what at all we are thinking of getting secured. The next important thing is what is the acceptable risk level. So acceptable risk level pertains to the threats or vulnerabilities and their impact on that particular business. For example, some of the vulnerabilities or some of the attacks, they will not be causing much harm to the enterprise or to the business. So what should be the mechanism whether to avoid them or to identify and try to mitigate those threats would be our process. So all those things will be understood well in acceptable risk level and they will be documented well in the security policy. So these policies are very flexible statements because they need to be modified and edited every now and then by the senior level management. Now, an example to this security policy could be emails should be strongly encrypted. That means it is one of the rule that has been implemented on the emails that are being sent out by the business. That means the emails should be strongly encrypted. So, moving ahead with security standard document, it is much more specific than security policy, and basically they are the tactical documents that lay out some specific steps and processes which are needed to be followed to achieve certain goals. So they are basically goal specific or goal oriented, and they will be much more secure and not much more secure, basically they will be much more specific than the security policy, because security policy, it takes care of the entire business in general, or it will document the activities of the entire business in general. However, in standard security standard document, it will be mentioned as to which policy should be embedded with what amount of standard or what amount of parameters, and they are the guidelines to implement a policy. For example, using of an encryption which is not yet known or not yet proven to be breakable, say in less than 30 minutes. So whatever the example we saw in the previous slide, which is emails should be strongly encrypted, so this would be having a guideline that if it is encrypted, then we have to use a standard encryption mechanism which cannot be broken down in 30 minutes, or which cannot be decoded in 30 minutes. So this is the standard by which the encryption of the email should be done. So the next and the last document we will discuss is the security practice document. So this practice document basically is a step-by-step procedure by which we go and implement a policy statement with own desired standards. So there is a set of policies based on certain standards, and how do we go and implement this policy? We have to make a step-by-step architecture or step-by-step format of it to implement that particular procedure, like a flowchart kind of a thing. So that is known as security policy. For example, provide Wi-Fi router with AES encryption connected to a manageable switch. Now AES encryption technique is a technique which cannot be decoded in less than 30 minutes. So this is already pertaining to the standard that we have discussed in our earlier slide, which is we have to introduce a standard encryption mechanism for the email, that is the policy. And the step-by-step guide is, initially step 1 will be to provide a Wi-Fi router, step 2 will be to include a AES encryption, step 3 will be to include the connection to a manageable switch. So these are the step-by-step mechanism, and we are also maintaining the standard related to the policy of sending an email which should be encrypted in a encryption mechanism that cannot be broken down in 30 minutes. So now, after all this documentation cannot be done without considering the legal issues associated with it. So we will look at it from these legal issues are both from the administrative as well as technical point. So there should be no conflict with law which is from the administrative perspective. Let us take the example that while taking an online examination, your camera is automatically switched on. So whenever the camera is switched on, there should be a disclaimer, or it should be stated that you are continuously being monitored. Otherwise, it will be violating the law which is incorporated in that particular administrative aspect. The next is unknown threat models. So this is associating broad guidelines along with penalty. We also call this as a technical aspect, because we really do not know how our system will be attacked. So In order to curb all the attacks, or in order to address all the attacks and their associated penalties and guidelines, we have to consider this kind of modeling, where we will be associating broad guidelines along with penalty for each and every attack that might happen in our system. So according to this threat model, no innocent should be punished. 100 criminals can go unpunished, but not one innocent should be punished. So here, according to the law, it means that you cannot give a penalty, or there cannot be a penalty associated to an innocent person. Now it becomes very difficult in identifying who is an innocent person. Suppose tomorrow someone has hacked into a system, or let's say there is a customer in a bank and he is doing online banking, and somehow his money got stolen from his account. Now there might be two cases. One, he might do it him not two cases, there might be three cases. One, he might do it himself. The second scenario may be, he whatever password he has used, it is being shared with others unknowingly or unintentionally. And the third scenario may be, because he has used a very weak password, someone has hacked into his system. So it cannot be identified exactly as to who an innocent person is and who a criminal person is while that money is being stolen. So until and unless it is identified that the customer has not done it himself, or it is due to the deficiency from the side of customer, the customer cannot be charged with any penalty for such kind of activity. However, if it is proven that it has been done, or it has been carried out in knowledge with the customer, then definitely some type of penalty can be introduced. So these are well written in the broad guidelines associated with the legal issues of documenting the security documents of the organization. Now the question is, do we really need to start the security policy designing from the scratch, or do we need to design the entire security policy from the scratch? The answer to this question is, it is not required, because there are already several standards which could be taken as a baseline. Now baseline is a very important concept, because it relates to the minimum level of security that a system, network or device must adhere to. So there are already these baselines which come during its installation, or during the initial development of that particular component. So we can make use of this baseline, and this baseline document is already available to all the enterprises, and it relates to the industry standards. So this baseline document already has the minimum level of security introduced in the industry standard. We can just use this baseline document and have the theoretical models built on top of it. Theoretical models essentially refers to the already designed models or already defined models by various enterprises, or the company or the enterprise or the organization can themselves make their own theoretical models. Some of the examples may be Bell and LaPadula model, Biba model, the access control list, etc. Out of this, one of the most simple models is the access control list, which generally holds the various access related permissions and information regarding that particular organization. For example, who can do what. That means which person is allowed to work with which particular activity. So everything is mentioned in this particular theoretical model in the form of an access control list. So we generally have this baseline document, and on this baseline document we can go on building up the theoretical models that we intend to implement in our own organization. So now an important concept related to the classification of information. So we have already discussed that information is basically an asset to the company. We consider information as an asset because without data and information, the system will no longer be functional in terms of digital executions or digital work. So naturally, we are classifying your information assets based on security, because this is the information security discussion that is going on. So we will be classifying this information asset on terms of security. So how can we classify this information asset? One important aspect of it is sensitivity of the information. That means how sensitive is the information. Based on that we can have several categories. So classification should be easy to comprehend. That means we should be easily able to understand the various categories. For example, risk management. Now what type of risk are associated with which type of information? Now some information are there within the enterprise or the organization which holds a lot of risk if it has been leaked out. So all those things needs to be easily understood before we actually work with them. The next important point is there should be no duplication of classification. That means for the same information we cannot have two different categories or two different classes for the same set of information or for the same information or data that is present. However, there might be some duplication associated. In terms of those type of duplication, we have to go with the data or information where the higher sensitivity is allotted. That means if the data is both into a high sensitive category as well as highly sensitive category as well as a mediocre or low sensitive category, we have to make sure that we always work with that particular information in the high sensitive category. So that was the broad guideline of the classification of information. So here we will be specifically classifying the information. So when we are specifically classifying the information, it is generally divided into four different categories. Firstly, not exactly four, it is categorized into five. The fifth one is not mentioned here because it is already known. So let's consider the first one. The first category of information is the top secret information. These are the information on which the entire business model depends on, and if it is leaked then the entire enterprise might collapse. For example, suppose I have a company and tomorrow I have decided that I will merge my company with some other company, or I might sell my company to some other company. So that information is top secret, or it should not be leaked out, because if this information goes out to the public or to the any other organization, there is a chance that if tomorrow I might change my decision, then there might be several issues which might collapse my entire business. The next category of information is highly confidential information. So top secret information, basically if it is leaked, it might bring down the entire business or bring down the entire company, and it might just collapse the entire enterprise. However, highly confidential information also pertains to top secret information, but in a moderate way. So here the information is needed to be kept in a secretive, highly secretive manner, and but even if it is leaked, it will have a temporary impact on the business. By temporary impact on the business means it will have a periodical impact on the business for a longer time. That means the company might run at a loss for a long period of time. However, it will not bring the company down. For example, the health records, generally the medical records of any patient is not made public, or it is not shared and is considered as confidential information. The um, banking customers, or the people who use online banking, etc., so those customer account related information are also highly confidential, because if someone gets to know, there is a chance that it might be attacked. However, the entire banking system will not go down because of the leakage of such kind of information. The third information is the proprietary information. Generally, this type of information relates to the proprietary information or proprietary rights that a person will hold, or an organization will hold, against any of its developed product or process or procedures. So if it is leaked, it might increase competition. For example, patent. Whenever we are applying for a patent, until and unless that patent is granted, that information remains a secret information and confidential information, and an intellectual property right is associated with that particular idea or patent, so that no one else can copy that particular design of that software or that hardware and replicate something of his own or under his own name. So proprietary essentially means ownership of that particular information. The fourth important category is internal use, and these are the circulars which are internal to the organization. That means the notices that you share within the organization. For example, in an academic institution, um, whatever the maybe the class test routine or the examination routine, all those things are shared internally, but it is not shared externally. So those kind of information are categorized under the internal information, and more people come to know about it. And the fifth important category, which is not mentioned here, relates to the open use or the external use information, where various information that is made known to the public can be used or categorized in that particular category. So basically, the notices from various organizations, the publications from various organizations, or the news articles, anything which relates to those information about the organization that is made known to the common public is known as the external information. So these four forms the primary categories of the specific kind of classification of the information asset. However, we have external information also. So this forms the information asset classification. So that is all for today. Thank you.